Okay, we are about to go live in just a moment.
Do you have one of those like Hollywood style little things to click there, Sid?
Yeah. Now we're live.
See if they can hear you now.
Yep, we should be good
And
now.
unmute that so they can see you.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Thornton.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Great to see you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Jacob, good to see you. Neil, thanks for joining us. Charlie, same. Good to see you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you very
Great.
much.
I've been fighting a few things. Thanks.
Good. Well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's good to see everybody. I think first, Sid, I think we do roll call, right?
Yes, let me go ahead and get that started. Okay, Chesterfield County, Mr. Davey.
Here, present.
Henrico County, Frank Thornton.
Présent.
Hanover County, Charles Wardell.
Present.
City of Richmond, Jacob Giovia. Goochland County, Neil Spoonhour.
Akisoy.
Okay.
Sid, can you pull up the agenda since I can't find it handy?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody for joining us. I know we've got lots to report out on today, and I think staff has done a wonderful job of sort of getting it teed up, both to be comprehensive and also to leave some time for us to have some conversations as well.
Mr. Davey, if I may, we actually, because we're back into a fully virtual mode again and not in a physical place, I need to read an opening statement if you don't mind.
Proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is just a reminder maybe to all members of the committee and the public, but we are continuing to be permitted to meet virtually by virtue of the City of Richmond's emergency declaration from 2020. And so due to the COVID and more recently the Omicron variant, we are meeting virtually today. And so therefore, I'll be reading this. We have not read this previously because the meetings have been in some way or shape or form hybrid, but now that we're in a fully virtual meeting today, I'll read this. Any public body or any joint meetings thereof may meet by electronic communications means without a quorum of the public body physically assembled at one location when the locality in which the public body is located has declared a local state of emergency pursuant to 44-146-21. Provided that the catastrophic nature of the declared emergency makes it impractical or unsafe to assemble a quorum in a single location, and the purpose of the meeting is to provide continuity of operations of the public body or the discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. The public body convening a meeting in accordance with the subdivision shall give public notice using best available method given nature of emergency, which notice shall be given contemporaneously with the notice provided to members of the public body conducting the meeting. Also, there are arrangements for the public access to such meetings through electronic communications means, including video conferencing if already used by the public, and provide the public the opportunity to comment at those meetings of the public body when the public comment is customarily received. Finally, we must otherwise comply with all of the other provisions of the chapter. So I just will certify now that the public, media, and all members were notified at the same time that we had converted this meeting from in-person to virtual. And again, to reiterate that this is due to the current Omicron variant. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that.
Well done. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for keeping us in compliance. Sid, are there minutes that we need to approve, or are they on the... I don't remember us approving minutes in the past. Do we need to start doing that?
They're here for your reference. I think typically we just include them so that we know what was discussed at the previous meeting.
Correct. That's what I thought. Thank you. So if anybody wants to see a copy and comment on those, let me know. But otherwise, I think we'll keep moving forward with the agenda.
Can I, Mr. Chairman?
Of course.
Can I offer one comment and one correction? First off, nice job on taking the minutes, whoever did that. And one minor change, page 4 of 5, where fourth sentence, partners we work with in a key way, if that could be 2 words, top of page 4 of 5. Outside of that, it's perfect. Oh, last name has, my last name has two D's in it. I just noticed that.
Sid, that gives you enough to go ahead and edit those, and then we'll file those away for great record keeping. Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Back to the agenda. Well, I've had quite a good opportunity to interact with staff. Some of it's been via email, some of it's been Zoom. And as we continue to try to engage this group and then sort of grow the capacity of this particular committee, which is one of the key committees of PlanRVA right now, there's a conversation about how we might choose to continually improve membership and enhance the value that this committee can provide to staff. So a couple ideas that we're starting to think through, and this now is down a little bit down the road of sort of how we got where we were. 2 years ago, we started trying to recruit for some more volunteer members to sort of help us add both perspective and capacity to what we're doing. Thank you to all of you who agreed to volunteer to help us out a little bit. Some of you may remember that asking for volunteers at 2 or 3 PlanRVA meetings in a row fell on very silent ears, and we didn't get a lot of traction. But we do have a good group of people that know both the background, the strategy, and a lot of the priorities of what we're focused on right now. But as we move further, there may be the need for us to sort of grow the capacity to execute some of the things that staff needs us to do. So one idea that Martha has come up with is that we use some of the other resources at our disposal. One of those resources is the bench strength that we have in a consultant. Some of the other resources are different stakeholders that are non-elected officials from around the region and some of the organizations that we all know and love that might be a way for us to recruit non-elected, non-PlanRVA board members to this committee. I really like the idea and wanted to at least go ahead and just throw that out of respect for all of your time and in respect for as busy as you are. I guess I sort of see this board's responsibility as oversight, approval, and leadership, but I don't see this board as a person who's going to roll up our sleeves and execute a lot of the strategies. So I'm anxious to see if you guys have any concerns about pursuing non-electeds, non-board member participants on this committee. And if there's concerns about it, I want to hear them. If there's no concerns about it, obviously we can maybe take the next steps of thinking who those people might be. So I'll just throw that out there for my colleagues to see if you guys have any concerns about that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity to comment. I have no problems with that at all. But I do think that we need to be careful in that I think even reading through the branding report, what we're seeing is the working to improve the identity of PlanRVA. I really do think that whoever we pick needs to be able to take this back to their localities and champion it. And I think that sometimes, especially as an elected official who doesn't, to your point, really do a lot of actual work, but is super busy, trying to figure out how to make that time to go back and, sort of market for PlanRVA. I want to make sure that we have the right people close enough to it that we will have, at least nine jurisdictional champions that when we launch something, they're going back and they're beating the drum for PlanRVA. Thank you.
I love and beating the drum is sort of where I was going when I say tactical versus strategic. Because we can do it and set it in motion, but having someone do it while we don't have time in between our monthly meetings is part of where we're looking. So good comment, Neil. Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I want to weigh in. I agree with Mr. Spoonhour in that there is the need to share with the localities and the public. Our expertise is broad and deep from what I'm seeing, but the expertise in getting the word out, in defining in the public's mind what we do and the scope. We're regional, and one of our emphasis is transportation, which is a key challenge and a key need in all the communities. We need anybody that has got the public outreach expertise. We can always use more qualified or competent expertise.
Well
Now,
said.
on the Hanover side, I volunteer to our people. I believe know what we do, or at least that's the gist of what I'm getting. But I'm willing to beat the drum, so to speak, with your guidance on the media, the forums. I'll stand up in the board of supervisors. I'll write letters to the local newspaper, but I want to go through you guys first for your blessing and guidance. So I'm ready, willing, and able. Thank you.
Okay. Jacob, Frank, any comments, concerns?
I really like the idea. I
Okay.
think it's it's a great strategy. And I also think to Charlie's concerns, it has to be focused in terms of the types of or the domains of responsibility, you know, so environment and transportation, as well as Mr. Spoonhour's comments, really getting into the specifics of each community and the specific members are responsive to, and to who the community is responsive to. So I think both of those concerns are the ones that I share, and I like the idea.
Good. Mr. Thornton, any comment?
Except I just couldn't hear what Jacob was saying.
You said you're brilliant.
I'll take that.
All right. Well, obviously, this doesn't end the conversation, but it's going to be a little bit easier for us now to maybe react to where staff comes up with where we get some extra capacity and our expertise. So that'll be one of the things I'll work with staff on, and obviously we'll report back on progress periodically. So, Sid, I think next on the agenda, I think I'm turning things over to you, Martha Arment. Please go ahead and take it.
Thank you. I am sharing my screen, so hopefully the slide deck is now in front of you. As you all have already referenced, we've distributed the actual document, so just thought that this would be kind of a handy way to go over those top line findings that had been shared. So again, you know, I think the disclaimer at the top of the document that was distributed, I'm reiterating this, but this is an overview of the high level themes, you know, from the primary research that includes the surveys and the interviews. Certainly not intended to be the comprehensive opinion of the Brand Federation team, but just to be able to give us that preliminary interim report. And again, it's not a project update as far as moving to action today based on this, but certainly I think it's helpful for us in shaping the conversation as it already has, and being prepared for a set of recommendations when they come. So a little bit of background, 18 internal responses were received from the survey. For us in this project, internal means members of the staff, members of the commission board, so those of you who might have participated, and members of the RRTPO, the Emergency Management Alliance, or the CBTA, who don't sit on the PlanRVA board. The 12 external responses, that was submitted to a series or a set of recipients of partner organizations. It wasn't a huge list, maybe about 25 of organizations with whom we have a pretty regular and strong interaction. And so, you know, the survey pool, as it were, is a pretty limited group, but from this, you know, having 30 people take time to fill out the survey was really helpful. And then the second level of research or data collection was through the interviews that were conducted. So internal sessions, again, that comprised staff members as well as members of the commission, the RTPO and CVTA. We tried to be as efficient as possible in that and making sure that the chairs of those respected bodies were included, past chairs. And it also so happened that obviously there was nice overlap with the composition of this particular committee and Mr. Spoonhour being on this committee as well as on CVTA and a past chair of the PlanRVA Commission. Mr. Thornton is current chair of the CVTA and member of the RRTPO and PlanRVA in this committee. And then we, I think, took advantage of the other chairs, Mr. Winslow, of course, for PlanRVA, Mr. Williams for the RRTPO, Mrs. O'Bannon and Dr. Newbill as past chairs of both PlanRVA and RRTPO to try to get a little bit of that institutional history. We have 4 of 6 external sessions that are underway. Those external sessions really are with folks that are not affiliated in the governance or organizational structure of staff and the board. Those included 2 community partners and 4 local government administrators, and those interviews are still underway at this point. I think there's actually 1 more that has to occur. The other one might be happening either yesterday or today. So top line findings, you might have noticed that the document was separated into kind of 2 groupings of findings, one a set of opportunities and one a set of tensions. So, this will be helpful, I think, for us to understand. Opportunities I read as really ways that we can lean into our identity and start to, in some respects, I think, get back to basics. What is our heartbeat? How do we communicate who we are and what our relationship is to our program partners? There was a really interesting section in there about the notion of regional empathy and what role PlanRVA can play in promoting, civic dialogue and discourse. And then this organizational acuity, being laser focused on that, who we are, what we do, and what we have to offer. On the tension side of things, I think that the interviews and the surveys were both, from what I understand, very rich with input. So it sounds like everyone who participated in either one of those mediums really did take the task at hand and we're contributing. And so, we heard, which I don't think any of these will be surprised, dueling visions. We have kind of myriad of roles and actions, and depending on what part of the elephant that is PlanRVA someone touching, they have that perspective. And so that is something that we need to be aware of. That perception of value and how that differs across the region among our jurisdictions and our locality representatives is certainly there. I think layers of influence, there was a lot sort of in the document that talked to how much of a support are we to decision-making in the region? How much of a leader should we be in the decision-making for the region and the prioritization and metrics? And so I think that's, helpful to hear that. And then certainly we have a long way to go in promoting promoting and communicating successes, not just for our agency and the affiliated organizations, but certainly for the region. And so I think that's, while it's a tension and perhaps not a primary area of focus right now, I also see that as an opportunity for us going forward. So you have the documents. I know several of you have already contacted me that you've been reviewing it. So we really appreciate that. The next steps on this are really where I think the rubber meets the road. We'll get a look at kind of a preliminary preview of what presentation will come to this committee. And I'll talk about the schedule for that in a moment, but that'll come in early February. So the team is still very much synthesizing the input and the responses that they received and kind of formulating what they think the recommended path forward would be. That will be compiled into a presentation that will be reviewed with the members of this committee first and foremost. So we do have a meeting scheduled on the calendar right now for March 8th. I actually was wondering if the committee would be interested and available to meet a little bit earlier. We'd love to have this track from your next meeting to the March full commission meeting on the 10th. And it just felt like the time frame between the 8th and the 10th, it just didn't seem like that was really enough time between those 2 meetings. So if there's willingness and availability, I was thinking perhaps this committee could reschedule its March 8th meeting up a week or 2 to either February 15th or the 22nd, which would just give us a little bit more time in between the meetings to review and really absorb and synthesize the material. We also have next steps that include, obviously we need to coordinate across our entities and with our local partners. The subject of public outreach is a regular agenda item for the CBTA. So Mr. Thornton, I think coordinating with you about how we might introduce, any kind of a collective effort on the CBTA agenda would be top of mind for me. Working with our emergency management leadership, that group is transitioning and we'll have a board retreat later this month, but I think that this could fall in nicely with their agenda. There is a public outreach committee for that, but also the executive committee meets monthly. So we'd have opportunities over the next several months to be able to coordinate. And then the RRTPO actually last Thursday formed a small subgroup chaired by Dr. Newbill with members of Mrs. Page, Canova Peterson, and Kevin Carroll, who have all agreed to join that small kind of ad hoc subcommittee to talk about public outreach. So I think that that's a prime group that we would be able to coordinate and integrate with. And then I've already had conversations with our local public information officers and communicators about bringing this strategy back before them. I think we want to be careful to all the comments before in the previous comment to not, have this be a mechanism where we're creating work for local staff, but also I think it's really important to be coordinated with those folks who are responsible for messaging at the local level and have this effort, be in alignment with where those folks are going at the local level. So all of that's predicated on kind of what the recommendations and next steps are coming out of the Brand Federation presentation, but then also where this committee sees kind of the most opportunity to prioritize those next steps. So a little bit of crystal ball there, Mr. Davey, but that's kind of what I'm envisioning as far as what the path forward is, at least over the next couple of weeks and into the near future.
Thank you. What a great report. Thank you very much. Why don't I go to the easy next step first is the 15th or the 22nd. Does anybody have problems with either of those dates in February if we want to move our committee meeting forward? Charlie?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Situation is I've got a vacation planned in the middle of January that is forced into February. More information is that's Israel, and Israel's closed right now. And the tour operator is put me into the next one, which will be the 7th through the end of February. I am pessimistic about that Israel opening up, but that's my quandary at this moment. I'm at their mercy and don't want to lose any credits to that sort of thing. So I want to be here first because this challenge and Israel will always be there, but too much information. I'll let you know as soon as the powers that be. But I look forward to.
Well, so let me ask Charlie, if you don't have any problem with us, do you have a problem with us bringing it forward into February for the reasons Martha outlined, and then we'll pick.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
And if I can figure out a way to remotely, I'll try to be there.
That would be
if it happens.
That'd be impressive. You could take care of making sure everybody in Israel knows what PlanRVA is doing for us.
Challenge accepted.
Good. Jacob, Neil, any comments on those two?
I can make both work. I prefer the 15th. I've got a budget session for the whole afternoon. So 15th would be preferable, but I can make either work.
Jacob?
Either
Frank?
good for me.
Either one. Frank?
I think that might work for me.
Why don't we pencil in? We'll follow up with a reminder email that we're going to aim for probably same time of day on the 15th for right now. All right. Sid, Martha, if you'll follow up with that. And then let me ask, are there other questions and comments on what Martha outlined? That is our most important project right now. She did a great job of encapsulating where we are. Questions or comments that we want to share this morning?
Mr. Chairman,
Charlie, please.
I sent a few comments to Martha late last night, and they're just my reactions, half-baked thoughts. will we get into the gist of addressing the questions now, or is that later in the meeting?
I think what we're gonna, again, it was a high level snapshot that we will get down and dirty in on the 15th, more than likely. But any initial things, questions that staff could be working on for you, I guess I would entertain those now, but I wouldn't want to go into a whole lot of detail at this meeting.
Okay, just a couple of brief comments. I see PlanRVA as the expertise regionally, and because they support the policymakers and planners, the RRTPO, those are the ones that make the decisions, but using PlanRVA's expertise and guidance, we're region-centric with connections and emphasis and our view toward satisfying federal, state, and local requirements. Now, the CVTA, and we support the CVTA, those are the ones that determine the funding. And again, PlanRVA's expertise goes to supporting and maybe ferreting out grants and sources of funding that maybe local staffs might overlook or not be aware of. That's just my reaction of a message that needs to be emphasized. And part of the one final comment, one of the heartbeat of PlanRVA is transportation, which looking forward is a real challenge, but presents a lot of opportunities, especially with the infrastructure bill that got passed. There is a great opportunity for us to shine in understanding that and helping regions focus on what's coming to them and the bigger picture. Again, just my thoughts and comments. It excites me for what it's worth.
Great. Well, we're going to keep those thoughts and comments going forward. Neil, any initial reaction to Martha's high-level overview?
I do. I really liked what I saw, and I think it aligns a lot. There were some things that kind of surprised me a little bit, but that's why you do these things, right? You see the blind spots you might have. One of the things that dawned on me as I was reading that and then listening to this meeting, there's been a sort of disconnect for me, and I wasn't able to put my finger on it until just a few minutes ago. And it's actually in the title of this committee. It's the community engagement. And of course, I want as much of the community involved as possible. But back in the day when I was coming up with leadership training, there was a leadership program called Sports Mind. Tim, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but they talk about the customer, client, stakeholder relationship. And I always ask myself, who is the client? Who's the customer for the work that we're doing? And while we work for the region, as Mr. Waddell claimed, I think I think this is a challenge, and I bring this up now because as we flush things out over the next 3 weeks before our meeting on the 15th, maybe keeping this in mind, Martha, might help. Is that I feel like right now there are 3 different distinct clients that PlanRVA is going at. I'm not sure that's the most efficient or valuable way to approach this. I see the citizens obviously as clients. I see the elected officials as clients, and I see the county administrators as clients. And Martha and I have had a lot of conversations about at least the last 2. As we're looking at our strategies for branding, I always try to be targeted in my approach of what I'm going after. And reading the comments, it really feels like the localities and should maybe be our main point of focus of how do we engage with them, because they should be the conduit for our citizens, right? I don't know what Martha would do if a citizen of mine complained that we didn't have enough bike riding things. She'd probably tell them to call me, right? But so I feel like as we're moving forward with strategy, and I could be wrong, people may disagree, like, no, we want this all about the citizenry and the public. That's fine. But you asked me, so I'm going to tell you. I feel like we should make sure that we are focused on who is our client for this next 6 months to a year body of work or whatever that time frame is, and make sure we're deliberate about that. My argument would be that it is the localities, almost to the point of, this is the citizen engagement or public outreach. It's almost like, I would almost challenge that, should this maybe be the client outreach and engagement committee? But I will pause there. And I absolutely do think it's interesting, Mr. Waddell, that you said that the PlanRVA is the heartbeat is transportation. And I actually think that's one of our challenges. I don't think it is. But I think we get pigeonholed into that, because I think planning is so much more than that. And the challenge that PlanRVA has is it supports the transportation aspect of it, but that isn't the heart. It shouldn't, maybe arguably shouldn't be the heartbeat of it. So just my nickel's worth.
Great comments. I love a lot of what you said there, and I think we should keep those thoughts going forward, as we develop our strategies and execution. So let me give Mr. Thornton and Jacob a chance to chime in high level. Jacob, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I really like this report, Martha. Thank you, and I really like those comments. I think, in terms of the client, I agree with Mr. Spoonhour that both transportation shouldn't be perceived as the heartbeat, and that we need to think about the client. I think, as well as thinking about the client, the members of the commission as elected officials are sort of the lever for which we can serve the localities, because I think that's where we get the buy-in the most. If local officials are going back to their own localities and demonstrating proof of product, proof of worth, I think that's where we need to be focused. And I think the central question we need to be focused around is what would allow for those folks on the commission to buy in, who are the central advocates to their localities, which is the client I think want to be serving. So that's what I would leave us with.
Well said. Mr. Thornton?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as you know, I've been around a long time, and I like the way that how Neil kind of defined our clients. That was very excellent. But what I want to do is something I don't think that we do enough. I really came into this group in about 1997, 98. And I've seen a lot of things, but one of the things that I want to do is kind of hit us on the back a little bit. When I think about the year 2000 and we're trying to reach the public in our various and respective areas, and what I really say, I'm gonna cut this short. I just want to compliment Ms. Heater and you, Mr. Chairman, and all the other colleagues here, because we were doing our business, but the public had no idea that we existed. So I just want to just throw some metaphorical flowers out to say we've come a long way. We still need to define ourselves because all the time we're changing. But I just want us and some of you who will be around long after I'm gone maybe, I just want you to know I'm very appreciative that you've taken part, rolled your sleeves up, and today, 2022, the public knows more about us today than they did in the past. I can assure you of that. But here again, I think I like what Neil said. We have to be ever knowing how to reach our clients. And he did an excellent job on that. He said the citizens, elected officials, and administrators. Only thing I would say is I think all of those three units could be more cohesive if we work together on those. But those are my metaphorical flowers.
I love it. I'm going to make just maybe a personal comment on, Frank, something you made me think of. And maybe, Martha, this goes to one of the execution things that we talked about once, the high level strategies are outlined, is a very, very, very effective way to accomplish a lot of what Neil said is by telling stories, because stories are memorable and stories are metaphorical. And to some degree, that may be a tool that we have in our toolkit. And Frank, I would probably challenge you to maybe help with some of the historical context of this organization and what we've done for the region and what the region know about us. And then obviously we can start telling stories going forward as well. So as you were talking, that made me think about that very, very effective tool. And so that may be a great thing for you and I to think about as long as we've been around is how might we tell stories from how things used to be to provide context for how we hope they want to be going forward. So, well, again, this conversation isn't ending. This is really just beginning, but I did want to give everybody a chance to sort of chime in. We do have other stuff on the agenda. So if nobody has any concerns, I'm going to try to keep moving things forward because I know Rashonda's got a lot to share as well. Sid, that's what's next on our agenda, right? Staff updates?
So I'll just do a quick intro if I can before Rashonda takes over. One of the things that I asked her to do today is, as she gets to know you all and you get to know her, is just give a really high level overview of what she's been up to in a way. And we wanted to contextualize that in the strategy, the public engagement strategy that we completed prior to her coming on board. But also then I think if okay, Rashonda, you could kind of move as you see fit from the update on the strategy implementation into those administrative updates for the on-call program, because they're certainly related. She's been here since November. We went through the recruitment process in the fall after having the engagement strategy approved, and we're grateful to have her on board. It's been a busy time, certainly negotiating holiday schedules and that kind of a thing, but it's given a little bit of time, quite honestly, for her to do sort of that internal evaluation and get to know. So she's been sitting in on a lot of meetings as those have continued to happen over November and December and into this month, get to know staff and that kind of thing. But I think she's also going to probably give you a little bit of a preview of what she's thinking about for the next few months and what opportunities to interact with you all on the committee might look like going forward. So Rashonda, I hope that was a good enough intro for you, but we'll turn it over to you.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Martha, and good morning and Happy New Year again to everyone. And so I just have some updates on our strategy implementation. Since starting in November as the community engagement manager, my focus has really been on getting to know the agency with support from Martha, Sid, as well as our PlanRVA team members. I've been able to accomplish the following. And so I've been able to meet with a lot of the staff members in one-on-one basis, as well as just on their various committees. I've sat in on meetings, including, PlanRVA, RRTPO, CVTA, EMACV, along with the environment work groups and some of our external partners as well. I've reviewed a lot of the PlanRVA supporting and foundational documents, brought forward some key elements of the public engagement efforts, such as a new design for our public engagement guide for meetings that are hosted by PlanRVA. So that looks like making it more staff friendly and implementing those best practices as we move forward. Created a press release for CVTA's regional projects, along with the social media calendar and planning tools around that. Over the past 2 months, I have assumed responsibility over supervision of our community outreach project coordinator, that's Sid Kumar, oversight of our on-call bench program for marketing, PR, communication services, including current and future task orders, increased our social media presence and digital content updates, along with the Better Together webinar and other tactics for our board members and public engagement beyond our public meetings. Moving forward, some of the goals that I have met with Martha and Sid on is to assume as primary staff over the Public Outreach and Engagement Committee, facilitation over our public information officers or our locality communicators roundtables, so bringing that group back together. A broader role with our community partnerships and our partner engagement, further developing our media relations, and then always brand implementation. So including supporting branding implementation priorities for CVTA, RRTPO, support for the new RRTPO ad hoc committee. And in all of this, I welcome the opportunity to, meet with you all, coffee, We could do lunch, virtual lunch, but just to make sure that, you know, I'm still receiving your guidance and input as we move forward in beefing up our community engagement strategies. And I see I have a message that the new public engagement guide, yes, was included in the agenda packets for everyone's viewing.
It looks
And so
fantastic.
this is the first meeting that we've used this, but it will become a part of all of our packets going forward.
Great.
Nice work product.
And then Martha, did you want me to continue with the on-call?
Yeah, if the committee is ready to move on, Mr. Davy, if
Just as you're scrolling through that, which is great, I think the amount of energy and effort you're bringing is awesome. So that's sort of an example of what I was referring to earlier about what resources do you need? Sometimes we can provide you some guidance and strategy, but you clearly hit it out of the park on execution. So I want to make sure you have all the resources that you need. Any immediate questions for Rashonda before she moves on?
No, welcome aboard. Great job.
The guide is a nice, easy to follow and well done guide. Thank you.
It's really fantastic.
Thanks, everyone. And again, I give credit just to the support that I've been able to receive from Martha and Sid, and along with our other, PlanRVA team members. They have really just poured a lot into me, answered all of my 50, 1,100,000 questions, and just, invited me to provide feedback and, show up authentically as myself. So I'm just grateful to be in this role, to have the opportunity to learn and grow under your direction and leadership. So thank you.
So one comment, so we here at Timmons Group, Martha and I have had this conversation that, we use the contrast between us as a consulting firm serving clients and PlanRVA, as Neil mentioned earlier, serving clients. For us, community outreach, business development is everybody's responsibility. So it's my job to mobilize 830 employees and make them feel empowered, that they can go out and touch a community in a way that hopefully brings in work for us and relationships that, continue into the future. So very often, I'm the catalyst for people to get out and do some things, but then they, in part, always, it bounces back to me because they need resources, to go accomplish a goal. So that's what I'm just sort of drawing a parallel to make sure that, we're resources for you when there's a strategic need. And then as we talk about what I opened with about actually adding other resources to this committee, there's going to be other things that can benefit you tactically. And so I am interested in your opinions about, how else we can sort of round out this committee so you have a standing meeting that you can actually either get stuff from us or, delegate things to us. That's sort of the way I would love this dynamic to work. So
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So then you work with our team of consultants. That's what we're going to talk through next.
Absolutely. So updates of our on-call bench program. So to date, we have issued 9 task orders to the on-call bench partners. 4 of those have been completed. And so that's task order 1, which is our community engagement strategy that was accomplished with AvidCorps. Task order 3, which was our preparedness guide, which was in collaboration with the West Cary Group, along with task order 4, Title 6 update in collaboration with AvidCorps, and our task order 5, which was our AvidCorps and our KLT partners. We have 4 task orders currently in progress. And so that's task order 2, our comprehensive public outreach for emergency management, which is being done in collaboration with West Cary Group, and task order 6, which is our brand differentiation that we're doing with Brand Federation Hodges Partnership. Task order 7 is still in progress as well. That is our bike ped public outreach that we're doing in collaboration with AvidCorps. and more to come about that. And task order 8, which is our Title VI training program that is being in collaboration with KLT. One task order is currently open for proposals, and that's our flood awareness campaign. Again, more to come on that. Thus far, 5 out of 6 of our on-call bench partners have been assigned task orders. IEN, which is our partnership with UVA, and VCV, which is Virginia Community Voice, have not yet been issued a task order. However, Martha and I met with Virginia Community Voice just yesterday to introduce me as the community engagement manager, but also to better understand engagement projects that align with what VCV's expertise is. We have also been in conversations with IEN, who works with us on separate projects outside of the on-call program currently, about expanding our relationship in FY23. Along with that, I've been tasked with developing a 1-page summary of our on-call bench team members and offerings for each of our on-call bench team members. And so thus far, 5 out of 6 of those have been received. So we reached out to them saying, hey, tell us, what is the best way to engage with you, what your expertise is in those areas. And so the purpose of this 1-pager is, one, we want to be able to ensure the board and our jurisdictions that they represent have a complete understanding of the on-call program and can share the availability of the services of the on-call bench partners to their locality staff. Another purpose of this 1-pager is to allow our fellow planning district commission members to be able to access services from the bench. Once the 1-pagers are all compiled, we'll be distributing and publishing materials for our member localities and identify partner organizations that might benefit from purchasing through the on-call program. We are also working to develop a dedicated page on our website to share key elements of the program, including the process for accessing services and the showcase of work completed. Our next steps for the on-call bench is to ensure that we are maximizing, the expertise of our bench and leveraging the program to its fullest. Martha and I will be meeting soon to discuss how to best capture the progress and impacts of our on-call bench projects. And so this may be in the form of annual or semi-annual reports. Also, creating and distributing a survey to the on-call bench partners so they can give us feedback on how the partnership is going. And those are my updates.
I've got a question, if I could. You
Please.
mentioned the LRTP in task 5. Is that embodied in the Connect RVA 245 document that was recently completed about the same time you came on board?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
If you want me to handle that since it was before you came.
You got it, Martha.
Yes, Mr. Waddell, we engaged the Avocor and KLT teams to help us with that final push for public engagement prior to the October approval of Connect RVA 2045. They created some videos for us and other collateral that lives beyond. But the document that you just held up, that was a result of their compilation and design work. Our team wrote the content and they helped it pull together so that each section has a unified voice, so that the design and layout is in an accessible format, helped us with the digital content. And then also, as I said, some of the kind of more engagement tools like our little videos and other things like that.
Nice work, and thanks for putting it in my hands. It gave me something very interesting to read. Thank you.
Sure.
An excellent overview of the regional transportation plan. Thanks.
We do have other hard copies if anybody else is interested. I think when I gave that to you, we only had a couple copies in supply, but we have a box full of copies here at the office. If anybody would like to request one, I can send one to you.
The rest of the committee, comments or reactions to the long list of progress updates Rashonda gave? Neil, any comment?
Well, if you call on me, I'm going to say something, Tim. No, I was actually sitting here trying to formulate my thoughts. And this is a compliment for Rashonda, Martha, and the whole team. I get to serve on several boards. And often I will mention things in passing or like, oh, it'd be interesting if we did things this way. I think I'm amazed that, I sort of through a conversation with Martha shared that I just don't know if folks know how to engage, and especially regarding the bench, and to see that that was not only just heard, but acted upon, it's unfortunately unusual. So I'm going to steal from Mr. Thornton's playbook and give a metaphorical high five to Martha and team. I'm literally like, I've got goosebumps like, wow, they actually listened to me. That was great.
Well said. Thank you. Jacob?
Yeah, I'm also blown out of the water. I think this is fantastic. I was thinking the whole time, I was like, man, it'd be great if we can get a one-page summary. And then you said, oh, we have 5, 6 of them done later. And so that was fantastic. One comment about just kind of tying the things we talked about together is a lot of times in government contracting, whether at the state or the federal level, it is the job of the contractor to develop policy, to write legislation, to protect certain interests, of course. But the other thing that they do is by protecting certain interests is making sure that people are aware of what's going on. So, whether it's Walmart doesn't need anything, but they need to promote the things in the law that are. So it's a matter of branding, even though it's a policy and sort of legislative backfix. And so I'm wondering, as we have some of these consultants coming on, if part of their job is a branding component just generally to promote, or how that gets incorporated, how the branding component gets incorporated in each of the contracts. And maybe that's a question, maybe that's a statement, I'm not sure. But
what it reminds me of is what our consultant bench has continually reminded me of is the brand is the promise. And the brand is what people know and think about you when you're not in the room. So that's what we need to continue to do is we need our brand to outlive this committee, and we need our brand to outlive even the great long list of work that Rashawn is doing. We need the brand to exist while we're sleeping. So that's part of why we have the resources at our disposal. Mr. Thornton, any comments? No? All right. I always love listening to you talk, so I'm always going to call on you, but I respect you've seen a lot of this stuff, and I really appreciate your leadership. Charlie, how about you?
One request with the work product that Rashonda's team is putting out. I'm very impressed. Can we, on the PlanRVA website, list the work product like this, the Connect RVA 245, for instance, so that somebody that has a passing acquaintanceship with PlanRVA or with what the RRTPO or CVTA does, that they can download this and other documents and get all you wanted to know about whatever, but we're afraid to ask. That's an excellent resource, and downloadable would be beneficial to folks. I took a class this past spring, and that opened my eyes to what the region's got. This would enriching folks. Access to this would enriching folks.
So that I understand the question, I think what I'm hearing is, while the document itself may be on our website already, maybe what we need to do is increase the prevalence, like where it's located or how it's accessible on our website. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Exactly that. Yes. For a computer literate person looking for specifics, yes. For somebody that is a neophyte, a minute into a website, if they can't find it, they possibly lose interest or assume it's not there. Yes.
I'll say, I think, and I mean, Tim, you talked a little bit ago about kind of the history of where we've been and the stories of evolution. Anybody who remembers our old website probably would acknowledge I think, vast improvement that we have to where we are today. However, I do think that, Mr. Weddell, your comment is well made, that you still probably need a little bit of a map to know how to navigate our website. And so that's something I think we definitely can take to heart and try to orient access to material in a way as though someone is visiting the site for the first time and doesn't know how to navigate it.
Exactly that. Yes, thanks. Because in the class that I took, these resources would have been great. I'm not criticizing the website. It's a beautifully done website with the necessary links. The technology and the information is great. The only suggestion, I guess, it's a minor one, is maybe have a pull down menu for documentation or something like that, like we've got under one of the pull down under transportation. You see the CVTA, or under programs, you see CVTA, you see the emergency management, and you see RRTPO. A pull down like that showing the work product, Rashonda's work product. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlie. Sid, is there anything else that we haven't covered on our agenda?
Let me pull it up real quick, but I think
we've got two we wanted to do a little bit more of a briefing, Rashonda, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the two task orders that are out right now, just to give the committee a slice of what these projects are about. And maybe it circles back, Tim, to the beginning of the conversation about what role committee members might be able to play in assisting with that amplification of what we're trying to do. So Rashonda, if you wouldn't mind, maybe give us a minute on each, given the time.
Absolutely. So on the bicycle and pedestrian plan, so in collaboration with AvidCorps and the Bike Ped team, we've been able to develop the following products. So a public outreach plan, a fact sheet about what we're doing. We've established a list of stakeholders from various groups. So making sure that we're focusing on community and civic groups, our marginalized communities, special interest group, our elected officials and state agencies. Next steps for the bicycle and pedestrian plan. So to help us prepare for the public comment period, which opens on February 8th, the Bike Ped team has a dedicated 4-hour workshop with AvidCorps that's actually happening tomorrow. And that's going to help us craft our message to meet the needs of our various stakeholder groups. During the session, we will have time to practice our delivery of the presentation and prepare to authentically respond to questions and concerns. For the flood awareness program, PlanRVA is leveraging the expertise of our on-call bench to assist with the development of a regional flood risk awareness and outreach campaign. The purpose of this grant-funded project is to improve the region's resiliency and reduce long-term impacts of flooding events on the regional community and the economy. So our next steps, proposals from the bench can be submitted until February 4th. Once proposals are received, the team will review and move forward with issuing a grant agreement. And those are the updates.
Fantastic. Well, as an engineer who understands flooding problems and all that kind of stuff, when your agenda gets into drainage, sometimes you're at the end of your agenda. So, but we don't need to shorten anything. Thank you for those updates, Rashonda. Great job. So Sid and Martha, if that covers the overall agenda, I think we'll wind this down. One thing Martha asked for us to have on this agenda that I pulled off, I thought maybe I'll leave as a challenge as we close. Obviously, many of the board members know that we're going to potentially have new office space one day. And in the site search of that, and then ultimately the site design of that, there is a way that improves what this committee is responsible for. If you think about any building that you've been to, how you arrive, how you engage, how you participate, how you navigate a building sometimes says a lot about the organization. So maybe as a lasting challenge in a future agenda item, I'll sort of throw that out to you guys, is when that conversation comes up amongst our colleagues, our job is to think about how we advance the mission of this committee using that new building and that new space. So I'll just leave that maybe as a challenge as we go forward. That's my closing comment. If nobody else has any others, speak now or.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Thornton.
I want to really compliment Ms. Lanier Jackson's report and also Martha and you. and the rest of the group there, flood awareness. You know, this is really avant-garde. And I am so happy that, you know, we don't translate transportation and a narrow view. And all these things are so important that many citizens have no idea about relationships, all of that. So I'm so appreciative. To me, this is avant-garde. I mean, you know, this is awesome. So again, metaphorical flowers for a topic like this. It may seem boring, but citizens need to know more about the impacts of flooding on them and all those things. So I tell you, this group is awesome. Keep it up. As we would say in French, continuez.
With that, I'm going to suggest we adjourn because that's a high note for us to end on, Mr. Thornton. Thank you, as you always do. Give us a high note to end on.
Thanks to
all.
everyone for
Thank you
making
all,
this
Steve.
happen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Well done, Martha. We're
Happy
done.
New Year.
Bye all. Thank you.
Thank you.